Dad, come on, bro, I got kids too, bro. Let me make it home and don't let me die or whatever like that. I'm like, bro, you good? I'm like, you good, nigga? I'm like, give a fuck about you. I hope you die, bitch, like that. I was like, you just said you're gonna kill my son. And then he was like, no, bro, it's not like that. I was like, fuck you, like that. So, boom, whenever I run to the back, I'm like, you got my son? And she's like, I'm picking him up now.
A grown man on his knees begged this rapper to let him live, telling him he had kids waiting on him at home. And here is that same rapper, weeks later, telling the whole world how cold he was when he said no. A few hours after he put that story online, his white Mercedes was sitting in one of the richest parts of Houston, shot to pieces. So how does a man go from laughing about a body to becoming one in the same week, and who pulled up to make him pay for it? You first have to understand the world he was moving in and the people he was moving against. Daryl Gentry, who the rap world knew as BTB Savage, was a 26-year-old artist out of San Antonio, Texas, and he built his whole name on sounding harder than everybody around him and never backing down from a single thing.
Every day feel like the first of the month.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for real one.
He had a small but growing catalog, a label of his own called BTB Savage Entertainment, and a 4-year-old son that the people closest to him say he loved more than the music itself. To the ones who really knew him, he was not even BTB Savage, he was just Daryl. And his mother, Bernita Ward, would spend a lot of time later trying to remind the world of that. The problem is that the version of him the streets saw was the loud one, the one who put all his business online, and that is the version that walked him straight into the fire. That fire started with a man named Omar Richardson, and Richardson was not out there moving by himself. He was a 34-year-old tied to a San Antonio street set that later grew into the Bloodstone Villains, and the man who would eventually be charged with killing BTB came out of that same gang and was Richardson's close friend. Keep that in your mind as the story moves, because in this world, a body is rarely just one person's business. It belongs to everybody who claimed the man who fell, and that is the part BTB never seemed to take seriously.
Know who opened fire, killing a man last week on Mid Lane near River Oaks. The gunman, identified as 40-year-old Montrell Burley, he's charged with killing a rapper sitting in a white Mercedes. Burley, however, still on the run along with another suspect in the shooting.
Gerald Harris is live at HPD headquarters tonight after speaking with the victim's mother. Gerald.
Yeah, police and the victim's mother say as the shooting of her son was a targeted attack.
It all kicked off on February 3rd, 2023. Some dudes had been hitting BTB up for a while trying to do music, and that night they finally pulled up to his San Antonio apartment, claiming they had their own studio gear and just wanted to knock out a quick feature. In his own words on camera, BTB admitted he almost told them to wait until morning, but the money was talking louder than his gut, so he let them in. It was never really about music, because almost as soon as the men walked in, including Richardson, they started looking around the crib funny and pulling out a studio box that barely had anything inside it. And before long, the older one was demanding that BTB hand over his watch and his chain. The whole thing flipped from a session to a stick-up in a matter of seconds, and once the guns came out, Richardson opened fire and caught BTB in the arm bad enough to expose the bone. What the robbers did not account for was the woman in that apartment, because BTB's girlfriend grabbed a firearm of her own and started letting it go right back at them.
I'm like, oh, they scary. Like, that's when I knew I had the edge over. I'm like, oh, they left him. I don't hear nothing no more. Like, we tussling and fighting, I don't hear nothing. So we get over there by my couch and we just wrestling and shit. I'm like, come shoot him again, because he got one gun in his hand. I already got the other one out of his hand. So I'm like, come shoot him again, come shoot him again.
When the smoke finally cleared, Omar Richardson was dead on the floor and BTB was bleeding but still breathing. The couple made it to a hospital. The police came through and did their investigation, and San Antonio authorities ended up ruling the whole thing as self-defense, filing 0 charges against BTB or his girlfriend. On paper, he had every right to walk away clean, and the smart move would have been to heal up, hold his son close, and keep that night between the few people who were actually in the room. However, BTB Savage did the exact opposite, and that one choice is the real start of the end for him. A few weeks later, he sat down for a long interview with Vlad TV, and instead of speaking on a situation that nearly cost him his life with any kind of weight, he told it like a war story he was proud of. He laughed about it, flexed, and made it plain that he felt nothing at all for the man who died on his kitchen floor.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, it ain't that bad. Like, I went to sleep good as hell the next day. I was happy as hell too. I'm like, ooh.
That interview took off and crossed more than 1 million views in no time, which is exactly the kind of attention a hungry rapper dreams about. Except the same eyes that make you famous can just as easily mark you. And BTB was not only telling the story, he kept going back to the part where the dying man begged him for mercy and he refused.
When the interviewer asked him straight up whether he was worried about somebody coming back to even the score, BTB did not even blink. Because he understood the rules of the street he was rapping about. He just walked around like those rules somehow did not apply to him.
They for sure might do what they do, but I'm gonna get active, that's all it is.
That kind of confidence is exactly what gets people put in the ground, and his own mother could feel it coming from a mile away. Behind the scenes, Bernita Ward had a bad feeling sitting in her chest because Richardson's family and his people had already started sending threats through Instagram, and some of them were sick enough to talk about going after BTB's little son and his mother too. She wanted him to fall back, leave Texas, and let everything cool down. But on March 30th, 2023, BTB went and did the one thing that poured gasoline on all of it.
Well, only on 13, we're hearing from the mother of an aspiring rapper who was gunned down in the exclusive River Oaks area last week. The 26-year-old went by the name BTB Savage, and just days before he was killed, he did an interview claiming he was involved in killing someone else who tried to rob him. Now his mother thinks that may have led to her son's death. ABC 13's Brooke Taylor is joining us live from downtown with the story. Brooke?
Mel, that rapper who's known as BTB Savage was posting on his social media. He was doing interviews about that deadly robbery just a few months ago. His mother tells me, well, he was just defending himself and didn't deserve to die. She says she tried to beg her son, stop posting and stop doing interviews talking about this.
Around the middle of that day, he posted 2 photos taken inside that same bloody apartment, and the images were as cold as it gets. In them, he is standing in the kitchen with his arms still in a cast, dried blood on the floor and walls behind him, a door full of bullet holes right there in the frame. And in the second shot, he is smiling and pointing at his mouth like the whole thing was one big joke. The caption on the Twitter version read, "Too much motion," while the Instagram caption was even nastier, basically clowning the dead man's poverty and telling his mama to go throw a fundraiser. And the posts went viral almost instantly, pulling in well over 100,000 likes on Instagram alone. His mother begged him to take him down, and in the interview she gave after his death, she said she told him as plainly as she could that this was not the move and that the other family deserved room to grieve. Take that off social media, let this family mourn in peace. He did not listen, and the clock on his life was already running down. What makes this even harder to sit with is that some part of BTB seemed to feel the danger closing in even while he played it cool for the camera. Because according to his mother, on that very same day, he called her from a restaurant, sitting at a table of people he was starting to second guess, and slipped her a message that still gives chills. He was dead right, because at around 6:10 that evening, BTB was in Houston's upscale River Oaks neighborhood, sitting in his white Mercedes near Mid Lane and San Felipe Street. He was getting ready to fly out to his mother in Las Vegas and finally get away from all the heat, but he never made it out of that car. 2 men dressed in all black, riding in a black Subaru, boxed him in and opened up, firing more than 70 rounds and leaving close to 70 shell casings scattered across the ground. Nothing at all was taken, which told the police everything they needed to know, because this was never a robbery, but a hit. BTB Savage, just 26 years old, was pronounced dead right there in the driver's seat only a couple of hours after that picture hit the timeline. His mother went public soon after, and the pain in her voice cut straight through all the street talk and all the rap noise around her son.
Gunned down near River Oaks, behind the wheel of a car riddled with bullets. The mom of a 26-year-old rapper known as BTB Savage tells ABC 13 that was her son. Bernita Ward says her son's online persona isn't how she knew him.
I'm not one of those parents who try to cover up, whatever their children's lifestyle is.
To her, he was just Darrell Gentry, his legal name. He served in the military for 4 years and was a father to a 4-year-old son. That's who she says she's most proud of. In February, Ward says her son thought he was going to be featured in a song, his rapping career starting to kick off. Instead, she says a group showed up to his apartment in San Antonio and tried to rob him. Earlier this week, the rapper did an interview with Vlad TV describing how he fought off the would-be robber, instructed his girlfriend to shoot him, and then left him to die. When the interviewer asked if he was concerned about retaliation, he said, quote, "They might do what they do, but I'm going to get active. That's all that is." On Thursday, he posted on social media standing in the middle of a bloody crime scene. Hours later, Houston police say he was shot in a drive-by shooting.
I said, take that off of social media. I said, let this family mourn in peace. But they were was taunting my son, telling him that they were going to kill the family, that they were going to make his mama cry, like my son made his mother cry. And I told my son, don't respond. But their family member came to rob my son.
Now she's forced to mourn the loss of her son, who she tried desperately to keep out of danger.
So the moral of this story to me is that 2 mothers lost 2 amazing sons, and that their children will be raised without fathers. And that's a sad thing.
And it was also important for her to spread the message to stop gun violence on the streets, especially to the youth, she tells me. I also did reach out to San Antonio police to get more information about that alleged robbery incident back in February. We are still waiting to hear back, but of course, we'll keep you updated as soon as we find that out. For now, though, we are reporting live outside of Houston Police. I'm Brooke Taylor, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
And this is the right place to slow down and talk about who Darrell really was underneath the loud persona, because the man his mother buried was a lot more than a wild Instagram post. Long before the rap name, Gentry came up out of Cleveland, Ohio, chasing basketball, then ended up in San Antonio and signed up for the United States Army, where he served 4 years and even spent time stationed all the way out in South Korea. It was over there that he got into coding and crypto and then got caught up in a fraud scheme that brought his military run to an end. And rather than hide from that chapter, he flipped it into his art, taking the name BTB Savage, which stood for Break the Bank, and building his whole sound around scams and the kind of hustle most rappers only pretend to know. He was a veteran and a father trying to turn a rough run into a real career, which is exactly why his mother keeps fighting to make people see Darrell instead of just the headline. None of that history mattered to the people hunting him, though, and his mother believes they had eyes on him the entire time, fed his every move by somebody who was supposed to be in his corner. That tip about being tracked is exactly the kind of thread the police started pulling, and to their credit, they moved fast. Houston detectives teamed up with San Antonio and New Braunfels police and went to work on every lead they had. They tracked a rented Subaru Outback, hit license plate readers on the highway running between San Antonio and Houston. They pulled cell phone records and matched all of it to a 40-year-old man named Montrell Burley. And Burley was no random shooter. He was Omar Richardson's close friend and a member of that same San Antonio gang that grew into the Bloodstone Villains. This meant that the man BTB had laughed about killing on camera had real people behind him, and one of them had just driven clear across Texas to collect. The evidence against Burley stacked up quick. He had rented the Subaru from an Avis in San Antonio on March 26th, the very same day BTB's Vlad TV interview dropped. And investigators say the plates on that car were swapped out to Dodge cameras before it slid east toward Houston. Cell tower pings placed his phone near BTB's location for hours leading up to the shooting, and when New Braunfels officers stopped the car on March 31st, a search turned up a shell casing that matched the crime scene, along with a pistol, ammo, and latex gloves. Burley denied ever being in Houston and claimed he had loaned the car out, but his own fiancée said he was gone from the house during the exact window of the killing, and the moment detectives pressed him, he lawyered up.
He was charged with first-degree murder on April 7th, surrendered on April 11th, and a judge set his bond at a full $1 million.
New tonight at 10, the man gunned down in River Oaks last night has now been identified.
Daryl Gentry was killed in a hail of gunfire on a mid-lane near San Felipe. That's according to the medical examiner's office. All night, we've been working to verify reports the victim is a rapper who goes by BTB Savage. Although investigators will not confirm it, on the record, an online business filing indicates Gentry is the manager of an LLC under the name BTB Savage.
ABC 13's Jessica Willey is live with what that rapper revealed days before this shooting. Jessica?
The defense tried to get it knocked down to $20,000, but the court was not having it, pointing to his gang ties, his history of skipping court, and the fact that this man drove roughly 200 miles to carry out an ambush. Burley fought that bond all the way up, and in March of 2025, the Texas First Court of Appeals backed the trial judge and kept the $1 million bond in place, citing how violent and calculated the crime was. The crazy part is that even now, there has still been no trial verdict. Burley is sitting in a Harris County jail waiting, and a second suspect, the one many believe actually drove or pulled a trigger, has never been publicly identified.
I could tell you there was a number of shots fired, as evident by the casings that's on the ground. We do believe this is a targeted.
The victim's white Mercedes was riddled with bullet holes. Nothing was stolen. This seemed personal, according to police. Two men in all black in a vehicle boxed the victim's car in, fired at him, and took off. The rapper, who has a 4-year-old son, was dead at the scene.
But the gang revenge angle is only one half of what BTB's mother has been screaming about. Bernita Ward has openly claimed her son was set up from the inside by somebody he trusted, even pointing at a friend or associate she says filmed the bloody scene. She claims they robbed him of music and money and may have helped hand him to his killers. None of those betrayal claims have ever turned into charges, and the police have stayed locked on the gang retaliation theory. So for now, it lives in that painful space between a mother's gut feeling and a fact nobody can prove. Either way, the lesson underneath it is one the culture keeps refusing to learn, and people who know these streets said it out loud the second the news broke. Even academics, who reacts to everything, kept coming back to the same simple point, that BTB never seemed to grasp what he was risking by treating a killing like a punchline on camera.
Gentry's parents were notified about his death.
And if you think BTB Savage is some one-off, a freak story that only happened because one man got too comfortable, you have not been paying attention, because this exact cycle ran again a year later with a much bigger name. Charles Jones, the Jacksonville rapper known as Julio Fulio, spent years dissing rivals and mocking dead members of opposing gangs in his music and online, the same kind of public provocation that put a target on BTB. On June 23, 2024, during his own 26th birthday celebration, Fulio was ambushed in a Tampa Holiday Inn parking lot, shot dead while sitting in his car with 3 other people wounded in the spray of gunfire. Just like with BTB, investigators say the shooters tracked his movements, even using social media and license plate readers to follow his group from club to club before boxing him in. And the parallels run even deeper than the setup, because police arrested several suspects from rival crews who had teamed up specifically to take Fulio out. And one of them even texted afterward that his thirst is quenched and to pop a bottle to celebrate the kill. The first defendant, Alicia Andrews, was convicted of manslaughter in October of 2025, with the remaining trials still rolling into 2026 and one suspect, Davion Murphy, still on the run. It is 2 different rappers in 2 different cities running the exact same script, talking reckless, putting their location out for everybody to see, and basically letting the internet do the tracking for their enemies. That is the part of BTB Savage's story that should sit with you the longest, because he had already made it through the hardest part. He survived the actual robbery, he beat the case in court without catching a single charge, and he had a son, a label, a buzzing interview, and a plane ticket waiting to carry him out of the danger zone. So the only thing that really killed him in the end was the need to flex and make sure everybody watching knew that he had won.
His mother understood that better than anyone, which is why her message after burying him was not about revenge at all. She asked the youth to put the energy somewhere it could actually save them, telling them to kill their debt and kill the negativity, but to please stop killing each other. What do you think about this case? Do you think Richardson's guys had any grounds to kill BTB after Richardson tried to rob him? Let me know in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.